Hello, everybody. Checking the connection. Yes. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Gil in England. Can you hear me okay? Because I have nobody on the other end. Hi, hello, Mike Lagana, Tina, Butterfly Girl, L Jet. Hello, Trish. Aloha, Bobby. Hello, Teresa. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody. Yes, hello. Hello, great. You can hear me. Great, great, great. So let me say hello to some people as they join. I'm very excited. This is Tom Caldabiano, again, writer on Everett Raymond for 9 years, from the beginning to the end. And this is the perfect time to talk about the Doris Roberts Christmas party and the origin of the Jazz Records episode. So these are some very... you'll hear how an episode becomes an episode, and you'll hear a 30-year story compressed into a few good story points. So I promise you that it will be very exciting. That Jazz Record story. Hello, everybody. Yes, hi, Chrissy. You love it when we have the writers on. Yes, I love having the writers on. Obviously, I'm very close to them. I'm going to be talking to Cindy Shupak, who was a writer. I'm going to be talking to her in February. She's very busy developing, so we'll talk to her. And unfortunately, a lot of the writers just aren't on Instagram. So I think I'm gonna have to talk to them on Facebook, maybe, or if I had them sitting next to me. But because the lockdown is tough. Hello, Sweden. Sweden, where do you watch the show? Where do you watch Every Brothers Raymond? Or maybe you don't, and you just are saying hi because you saw this live. Hello, hello, everybody. Yes, one of the best series. Thank you, AJ Crocker. Thank you. Hello, Rockland, New York. Yes. Hello, Mike from Rockland, New York. Yes, where the statue is. The Rockland County Courthouse is where the statue, the sculpture is. Marie's sculpture is a full-size sculpture. That is what the episode is based on. Yes, Patty will come on. I love talking to Patty. Ray will come on. Hello, New Jersey. Nancy, where are you in New Jersey? Hello, Coney Island. Yes, thank you. Hello, Vania. Yes. Now, that's a name that I don't know that I can pronounce. Vanaya or Vania? One sounds vanilla and one doesn't. Thank you. Hello, Paula. Hello, Nashville. Good luck over there in Nashville. Hello, Mac. From Norway, no streaming sites in Scandinavia have ELR. And Elena, are you an actress? Are you just a fan of shows? Yes. Hi, that Janet Mitchell Lambert. That's a lot. Glendale, right around the corner. Was there a Christmas episode every season of Raymond? Asking from Youngstown, Ohio. Well, I guess no matter where you ask the question from, I don't know the answer. I bet you one of our fans would know the answer. I think there was one Christmas episode, season 1. That was The Ball. Season 2 might have been All I Want for Christmas. Season 3, The Toaster. Then we have Season's Greetings, the Jazz Records episode. And I know I'm missing a few. So, yes, Kolsch Soul. Please get Ray to join Instagram. That will never happen in a million years. Yes, Parker, Teresa, yes. Brad Garrett has been on, and we will have Brad Garrett on again. Yes, I had a very good Christmas. I saw Raymond and his family this Christmas, and we had a very small get-together. Yes, Ray was on Conan's podcast. He's still so funny. He is. All right, let's talk a little bit about hello from Uzbekistan. Now, is that how you spell Uzbekistan? Uzbekistan. Hello, Uzbekistan. Every season except, thank you, Leo. Every season except season 9. Yeah. So season 9, we did 15. So that's interesting to know. See, I learned something every day. Yeah, season 9 was a little bit tough. It was just a short season. We did 16 episodes. Tina's saying her connection isn't good. Is it just her? That I can't tell you. That I don't know. If everybody else can hear okay, then it's going to be you, Tina. Yes, Ray had a good birthday. Ray's birthday is December 21st. Yes, we did 16 episodes in season 9. Sorry if I said 15. It was 16. That was a negotiation process. So great. Steffi here's fine. Everybody else's connection is fine. So Tina, it is you. Unfortunately. Yes. Why? So let me answer a few questions. Then I'm going to get into the Doris's Christmas. Are you guys happy that I shared the inside of Doris's house? Because that is one of my rarest photos ever. And I have some for many years. Some of you asked, where's Brad and where's Peter? So I don't know that Peter and Brad made it every year. I just posted a picture. They're talking to each other in the bar in Doris's house. And when you go to Doris's house, she has a downstairs bar, and it feels like you're in England, dare I say. It's really quaint, dark wood. It's littered with Emmys because she has so many. And then in the background, you saw behind Peter is one of the playbills of a play that Doris did, and she did many. She did many plays. And so that's just one of the many plays that she did. And a big part of her life was doing plays. So, and for us who know her from TV, it's almost odd to see that. Yes. Catherine Hellman. Yes, it was great to see Catherine Hellman at Doris's house. Yes. Did any other guest stars get invited? I don't think so. I think Catherine Hellman, I don't know if she and Doris were friends. I mean, it was a really, yes, a downstairs bar like my grandmother had, exactly, in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Kind of like that, only much smaller. Doris is much smaller. I don't know if Doris was friends with Catherine Hellman off camera, or she might have known her for 30 years. And the other guest star, there weren't really any regular guest stars other than trying to think. We had Robert Culp and, of course, Fred Willard also. Now, also, Christmas time is a big time for parties, so a lot of people couldn't make it. And I think Brad may have just had a kid, and Peter's family was in New York. So my guess is they might have gone. Peter probably was back east for some of them, and Brad, I think, once he had a kid, it was tough to get away. So it's going to be a reunion with the cast. Okay, if you've watched past ones, they did a reunion table read where I did the Q&A at the end of it, which was fun. So I don't think there'll be a scripted reunion, at least not in the format that you guys know, especially without Doris and Peter around. So every year, going back to Doris's party, she would invite us over, not the first season, I don't think the second season. And again, I've said this before, you don't know your future on a TV show. So now in hindsight, it just seems like the show is going and it's, is a big hit, etc. But we only had an order of 6 episodes, I think, to begin with. And then maybe they call it, did you get the back end? Which means they give you like a back 9, I think it was at that time, of episodes. But I think for us, we might have had an initial order of 6 episodes. And then you're waiting to hear, do we have 3 more episodes? Do we have 9 more episodes? So I'll get the exact number, but there's no big Christmas parties. Our big Christmas party for the crew and the cast, season 1 was on stage with some beer, and I think we just had beer. I don't remember anything else because, you know, there's not a lot of money, and it's, you know, studios aren't notorious for being willy-nilly with their money. Wow. Bobby, no smiles. So, yeah, Bobby in Hawaii. You remember Catherine Hellman from a Car 54, Where Are You episode. That is a long time ago. So, so Doris, I think maybe the beginning of season 3, she had, and I saw some discussion in the groups, she had this Christmas party, and she would call it a greed party, or at least we called it that, or somebody called it that. I don't know the origin. But I know some of you chimed in that you called a Yankee party and all kinds of parties, terms rather, specific terms. But what you had was a lottery system. You had a lottery system, and you each picked a number, and however it worked out, that whoever had the next number could take a gift from somebody who already had one, or pick a gift from the pile. So you never were guaranteed that you would get a gift until it was over, because the last person could take anyone's gift away, and you could trade. Once your gift got taken, you were able to take someone else's gift. The amount of heated arguments and laughter that happened, people arguing over, I put a picture of it. It's a bad monkey. Well, I don't want to say bad because somebody made it, but it's a monkey sculpture. And so you would see the amount of investment people had in a gift. And there was a limit, by the way. I don't know how that coffee maker got in there. Yes, Pendleton Jenna. Yankee Swap is the name, exclamation point. It's the name you call it. So I have 3 other people disagreeing with you. So, but let's call it Yankee Swap. And I think and that's the thing. The limit, I think it was a $50 or even less limit. So there was really no so somebody couldn't bring a $300 bottle of scotch. Yes, you call it a white elephant in the Midwest. Okay, there you go. So why would you call it Yankee in the Midwest? That makes sense. Yeah, Paula, you can have the monkey. I'll find out where the monkey is now and who had it. Okay. Oh, so Patty did an episode on the middle of the gift swap. So that's great. Chinese grab bag. I don't know. Is there a lottery system in Chinese grab bag? I don't know. Maybe so. Yes. Secret Santa. Yeah. So Secret Santa, I think somebody gets you a gift and you don't know who got it for you, right? At work, you would call this Secret Santa. Is that right? I mean, that's how I know Secret Santa in the U.S. is you would just get somebody and you'd say, who was my Secret Santa? The trading and arguing after, that I don't know from Secret Santa. That I'm gonna call it whatever you want. So now that house that Doris lived in felt very historically rich, because at one point James Dean lived in the house. Not when Doris was living there, but before Doris lived there. It felt very old school Hollywood. And we loved going there for Christmas because it was a break in the season. The pressure of having to finish scripts is off. Yes, Doris lived in Hollywood. The question was in Hollywood? Yes. Doris lived in the Hollywood Hills near the Hollywood sign. So she's up in the Hollywood Hills, and you would wind up the road, and then you would come across this, this beautiful house set, and I think it was set on a corner where it jutted out a little bit. And so there we would see all the people we've been working with, dressed up, drinking, having fun, etc. And I should say, if you watch the table read that we did for the Peter Boyle Foundation that Lorraine Boyle does, Brad Garrett came out with a secret that most of us didn't know, which was on the set of Raymond, Peter Boyle would have AA meetings in his office. So Brad Garrett, this is public knowledge. Brad Garrett, who quit drinking between season 1 and season 2, would go to Peter's dressing room, and they would have these AA meetings with other guys on the crew who were also not drinking. So the irony is that I posted a picture of Peter and Brad in Doris's bar, and neither of them drank. And when that came out in the table read Q&A, we did a Q&A where I hosted the Q&A after this table read, and then Patty came out that she's not drinking now. So that was three. That's three of the cast, and Ray has never drank. Ray just maybe as a teenager, but he didn't. He never had a drinking problem. He just doesn't like to drink. So Ray has not drank, I think, since he was like 22 or something like that. Yes, somebody there. Yes, on Quebec Drive is the house. I'm reading this question. Was the toaster scene in the stockroom with the toaster stacked to the ceiling real, or was it CGI? You know, I didn't go down for that. I think it was real. I'm 99% sure it was real. Next time I'll ask Phil the next time he's on. That's a great question. When I say I didn't go out for that, that was down for that. I'm in the production office. They must have pre-filmed that. They didn't do that in front of the live audience. So the live audience, when they came in for the taping, they watched that video being rolled back. So that's why I was there for the filming, but I didn't see that portion being filmed. Will the show ever come back on? Well, it's on in syndication. I know that, but I would be surprised. All right, I'm scrolling back through some questions to make sure. Hello, Bosnia. How are you in Bosnia? Where do you watch it in Bosnia? Yes, Secret Santa. Now, Leo, in your Secret Santa in Toronto, do you do the trading and swapping of gifts with a lottery system using numbers? I'm just curious. Yes, yes. Patty did it in the middle, an episode of Swapping. I don't know. I'll ask Patty where she got the idea, or where the writers got the idea for that. An elephant. Yes, I love. I'm scrolling back. Great. This is great. By the way, I hope you guys all had a good. I know in England, right? They really clamped down on any celebration. All right. So the Doris, yeah. So that was the Doris thing. You know, we would eat dinner. We would go. The highlight was those Secret Santas, because obviously with a bunch of comedy writers, you're going to get a lot of laughs, which you can tell from the photos. And I will find out. What years Peter and Brad attended. I'll look for any of those older photos. Okay, so now the Jazz Records Christmas episode. Hello, Swindon, Wilshire, UK. Oh, yes, Karen. Hello. I'm just scrolling back. Yes, Parker. So, by the way, in one of those photos, just to go back to Doris's house, one of the photos I posted, you see Patty laughing, and she's sitting next to her husband, David Hunt. And I know that it was Ray's birthday on December 21st, and I posted a picture from the Angry Family where Ray leans over and kisses his real wife in front of Deborah. And I know from the outside, it just seems so strange, just like seeing Patricia Heaton with the dreaded Parker, the hateful Parker. It just seems odd. Of course, if you're around, you see them, but it's almost, you know, the one thing is, in I Love Lucy, she's really married to Desi Arnaz, so you didn't see them off camera hanging around from each other, hanging around with different women. Okay, so the Jazz Records. So let's just talk about how you would come up with an episode, at least on Errol's Raymond. What Phil would do is say, listen, let's do as many real-life experiences as possible, because his theory was the more specific thing that happened to you, the more likely it was that it happened to other people. So when you just do these generalities, it feels like mush, meaning you're just trying to say, men are different than women. Like, okay, it's so when you share a very specific life experience, you really add detail that you just, can you make it up? Yes. But when you know it comes from a real place, it's much better. So, this story goes back a very, very long time. And I will tell you, my father in real life loved jazz records. He was a volunteer for a station called WBGO in Newark, New Jersey, 88.3, which is a big jazz anchor station. And as we know, jazz, which was incredibly popular in the late 40s and in the 50s, slowly faded from the limelight. So if you had one hit pop song, you could sell out the Hollywood Bowl, but you could watch the world's greatest jazz artists playing in the smallest clubs, because commercially they just didn't have the oomph that once rock came in, etc. So my father was a big volunteer at this jazz station for 30 years, WBGO, and his whole life was about jazz and these jazz records. So one time, when probably in 1994, I'm gonna say, there was a big jazz fair where people traded records. Now, 94 CDs did exist, but records were still, and as you know, I think this year for the first time, records are outselling CDs for the first time since CDs were introduced, which I don't, I'm assuming maybe the first CDs were introduced in 1985 or so, 84. That's an easily checked fact. So my father asked me to help him with a jazz fair. And the jazz fair was in Newark at some big convention center, just people trading jazz records. Do we have any jazz fans out there listening? Because if you don't like jazz, and I got to be honest, at first when I heard jazz, I was exposed to a lot of jazz growing up, but it wasn't until later in life when I heard specific jazz that I really started to love it. And because when you listen to something atonal jazz, it can be tough to listen to. And if we have jazz aficionados, they can argue, etc. So, jazz records. My father asked me help with this jazz records fair. So I remember I was hosting it was a Sunday jazz fair. Saturday night I was emceeing at a club called Boston Comedy Club in Manhattan. Boston Comedy Club was around the corner from the Comedy Cellar. Boston Comedy Club is one of the early clubs where Dave Chappelle worked, etc. And you would MC until 3 o'clock in the morning. So I think I got home at 4 a.m. I went to a early morning. This is a very good story with a lot of tangents, but they're fun. I went to a early morning jiu-jitsu seminar. I finished the seminar. I think I slept 1 hour. I raced from the seminar near Rockland County, in Rockland County, New York, down to Newark, and I showed up at the jazz fair, and I come bounding up the steps, up the escalator, running up the escalator, and I see my father there, and there's thousands of records set up, and my father says something like, "You're late," or whatever, and he's talking to a guy, and he goes, "See these records? I had a lot of these records, but my son ruined them when he was a kid." And this was the first time I ever heard him say that. And I was like, I didn't even know what he was talking about. And so it was even such a weird comment that I just didn't pay much attention to it. Okay. That's before Everybody Loves Raymond. Everybody Loves Raymond starts. I'm now on season 4, 5, 6 of Everybody Loves Raymond. And I've come back east at Christmas time, and I'm going to record. Now, for those of you that are older, our parents would use 8mm and 16mm film to make home movies, but they had no sound. in general, you would play back the movies, and then you would say, you would see the movie, but no sound. So you didn't know what the movies were about unless somebody who was there was narrating. So I sat down with my father and my Uncle Joe, and we sat in his Lake Kapatkan house, and we played the films, and I videotaped with sound my uncle and my father narrating those films. So here we're watching these films for hours, and all of a sudden there's a shot of the apartment that I lived in East Orange, New Jersey with my parents, I guess when I was 2 or 3, and my father points to the corner. He goes, "There's those jazz records that you ruined." And so at this point, it's been 5 years since I even heard that, and I go, okay, Dad, I don't even know what that means, but, I was 3. I don't remember. What does that even mean? Okay. So, Everybody Loves Raymond. We're now season 6. Now, this is where it takes a bizarre turn that ties into the Young Girl episode, the Everybody Loves Raymond book, a famous jazz photographer, and my uncle. Okay. Now, years later, my father, who ends up being fine, but he has a heart attack and he has to have surgery. He has to have triple bypass surgery. So I'm going to fly back to New Jersey. So he's there. So I'm there to see this, to see him come out of the recovery room. The night before I'm going to fly back, I'm ironing a shirt. And while I'm ironing a shirt, because I'm doing a show at the Improv that night, while I'm ironing the shirt, I'm watching a documentary on PBS about a famous jazz photographer named Herman Leonard. And the documentary is narrated by Tony Bennett. And the guy's life story is amazing. It's an amazing life story. If you Google Herman Leonard, you will see amazing images. And I have, so this, it's going to be backwards. But that's a picture that he took of Duke Ellington sitting at the piano. You can see the light streaming in. So that's one of Herman Leonard's photos. Okay. So I see this documentary. I get blown away by it. The guy's life was, he went to college in Ohio. He wanted to be a photographer in the World War II, but they made him a medic, but he still did photos. And he moves to New York, Herman Leonard. He does headshots of actresses. He goes to jazz clubs and says, listen, I'm going to give you free photos if you let me take pictures of your club. And at that time, in the early 50s, the greatest jazz artists around, Miles Davis, Billie Holiday, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, were all performing. So he's taking pictures of these legendary artists. One of the girls that he's taking pictures of, one of the headshots, she says, I want you to meet my boyfriend. He meets her boyfriend. The boyfriend is Marlon Brando. And Marlon Brando says, I want you to travel with me and take pictures. And his life story takes off from there. In the documentary, they say his life goes on. He moves to Ibiza. He ends up running out of money. He tries to get back in the game, but he's broke. And then he has, in the mid-'80s, a showing of his old negatives that he pulls out. And it's the biggest sale of an opening of a photographer. It's insane because now half these people are no longer around. Half these jazz artists are gone. It's now, late 80s, early 90s. So he ends up being just a legendary icon of the jazz world. Okay, that's Herman Leonard. Now we're back to my father is going to get triple bypass surgery. I fly back to New Jersey. I'm in the hospital making small talk with my Uncle Joe. And I say to my Uncle Joe, Uncle Joe, I saw the most amazing documentary on a photographer last night. His name is Herman Leonard. And my Uncle Joe turns to me and says, I know Herm. We went to college together. And I'd never heard of the guy 24 hours before. And now all of a sudden my uncle is saying, I know him. I went to college. So I said, how is that possible? How have you never mentioned that? And he never mentioned, or maybe he did and I didn't think of it. I said, well, do you ever talk to him? He said, yes, I talk to him, once a year or something. He lives in New Orleans. And I said, oh, okay. Can we go visit him? And he said, sure, I guess so. I mean, let me call him up. So during Ever's Raymond season 4, my father, by the way, recovers from his heart surgery. And I mentioned the young girl episode, which we will talk about when Tucker is on. It was from that hospital that I called Phil, and he said, who are you bringing to this event they were going to? And I told him on the phone this young girl that he had met before. That kicked off the young girl episode, which I'll save for another time. So now my father visits me with my uncle, and I said, this is maybe 2 months after the heart surgery. I said, Uncle Joe, listen, in the spring, let's go meet Herman Leonard. And my father was like, I don't want to go. I said, I'll pay for everything. Let's just go. I can't go until the show is on hiatus. My father ultimately goes. We go meet Herman Leonard. They're comparing they're comparing yearbooks. They're going through, oh, I dated this girl, oh, this girl. And he's telling amazing stories. And for those of you that are jazz fans, I said to him, was there ever a time when you wished you had your camera and you didn't? And he said one time he was with Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, and it was, I think they played till 4 a.m. And then they said, come on, Herm, we're going to New Jersey. So they hopped in the car in Manhattan, drove to New Jersey, and played until 3 the next afternoon. And he said he ran out of film, which, I mean, that's a priceless, just hearing that story was just stunning. And many, many stories like that. So I'm going to grab this. When I got back from that trip, I tried to find a Herman Leonard book, and he had published this book in France. And I looked it up. Now, this is when Amazon was just starting, so it wasn't like now where you could find on eBay, etc. I look up and I find there is one copy of the book in the United States, and it is 1 mile from my office at Warner Brothers. It's at Iliad Bookstore. I go to the bookstore. I buy the book. I go, this is the greatest book, and I'm going to do and Everybody Loves Raymond based on what Herman did. So this book, where you see the pictures and Ray and Phil write the captions, that's exactly what Herman Leonard did in his book that I had found, the only copy in the country. So now we're back in New Orleans. I'm with my father and with my uncle. We've had the greatest 3-hour meal. We went to Emerald's. I can't believe it. I'm so excited to have even met Herman Leonard, and he's telling us these stories. And he's such an inspiration. And we have to go back to our hotel. And Herman says, I'll drive you guys back to your hotel. And I said, well, you don't have to drive us. I mean, we can just call a cab. No, I'm going to drive you guys. So we hop into Herman's car. And at this point, I'm going to guess Herman was 75 maybe, or 76 or something like that. And the way back, on the way back, we're sharing more stories. And we get to the hotel. And Herman says, hey, Tony, my father's name, says, goodbye to my Uncle Joe, who he hasn't seen in a long time. And obviously they went to Ohio University, by the way, not Ohio State, but Ohio University. And they were there before World War II and then finished after World War II. Then he says to my father, he says, well, you have quite a son. He really is into photography and the writing of Raymond, all this stuff. And my father says, yes, it's too bad he ruined all my jazz records when he was a kid. Which Herman laughed at because it just sounds crazy. But I was incredulous. I was like, really? After this 3-hour session and talking to this guy about the history of jazz, which my father loves so much, my father can't let it go. He has to bring it up to this super, this very sharing, super gifted photographer. We fly back to Los Angeles. The next time I'm in the writer's room, which is the beginning of the season, I tell Phil the story. And there's a lot more to the story. I'm compressing it, but that was the gist of it. And I said, Phil, I tell him the story I just told you, and he says, you know what? And this is when you knew you had a good story. Phil would go, put it on the board. Put it on the dry erase board, Jazz Records. And that's all. He doesn't say, okay, we'll figure this out. Yes, Leo is my father's not still with us, but did he see Jazz Records? Yes, I will share that with you guys. So Phil puts that on the board. Now we're in June, okay? So your assignment now is to think of how do we make that a story? Because that long-winded story I just told you has some interesting twists, but now we have to fit it into the Barone family. And that's where I thought, okay, I did, if you guys have seen the Jazz Records, I did win a spelling contest, and vacuum was the word, the tough word. I think I was 7, 8, 9, 10, I don't know. I don't remember. So that was true. And then the father, that was all true. And then Phil said, look, let's have a twist. Let's have it where the jealous brother, which I didn't have, I have a sister who we not really very competitive in the Phil Richard or Ray Richard way. Ray's brother, the cop, is named Richard in real life. And so he said, why don't we have this? Why don't we find out that Robert has moved those records and let Ray suffer for 30 years. And so that was a brilliant idea and a brilliant twist that I would not have thought of. Yes, vacuum. Yes, that's true. So now, then it was like, okay, maybe we can weave that into the Christmas episode. So now keep in mind, this is an event that took place in New Orleans in April. And now it's about to become a Eros Raymond Christmas episode. So I end up writing it I probably in August maybe or something like that, and it becomes feels like this will be a perfect Christmas episode. So that's how that became the Christmas episode. And I think if you watch just a little bit of tidbits, the corrective shoes, the clunky corrective shoes. I remember Mike Scully, who was a writer on the show, who was also the head writer of The Simpsons for 8 years. I think he was the showrunner of The Simpsons. He came up with the clunky corrective shoes, which was hysterical. My real doctor out here is named Dr. Fishman, so I put that in the script. And let me see. Yes, funny, yeah. And so, by the way, I still don't know that anything happened with my father's records. I think in general, it's just that he had records and maybe we were kids, we played with them or took them out of the... So I have no recollection ever of, when you've done something wrong and you're afraid you're going to get punished by your parents. That didn't happen to me. There was no event. That's why it was such a baffling thing. Yes, the Hot Wheels thing, great. Yes, the Hot Wheels things. Why would Doris never actually kiss the guys on the cheek? I don't know. Is that true? We'll have to ask Raymond when he comes on. Yeah, so now, the Jazz Records, when that aired, and I don't know if you can tell, but Peter is already starting to be a little bit frail, so it's later on in the series, and at that point we don't know if there's anything wrong with him, he just looks frail. So when that finally aired, I did have the thought of like, oh, my father's going to see this episode. And Phil, when he was talking about the toaster, he said he was talking about his own parents, and he described them as the psychopaths in the script. Ray said, "You're psychopaths," and Ray's mother turns to her father, and says, "See, we were the psychopaths." So there was no self-aware; there was just joy. So with my father, I thought, okay, what is he going to say when he sees this? Because it's clearly about him and that record. The Oscar Peterson, Ben Webster. Ben Webster was a favorite of his, Oscar Peterson also. That record will be heard by millions of people, 25 million people, more people than ever hear it on the jazz station. Potentially in the history of that record, it's the most that it's ever been heard. So it airs, and then the next day, I'm going to call my father to say, hey, did you see that episode last night? And I didn't know how he would react. I didn't know if he would go, how dare you write, like, why would you write something like that? I had no clue. It's too bad you can't all chime in, because I'm curious what you would think his reaction would be to seeing that episode. Yes, sorry, I'm reading some of these things. England, TV is poop now. Everybody's Raymond isn't on the mornings while it's Christmas. Oh, Joanne, I feel bad for you. Yes, I feel bad for you. So, yes, my father never. Yes, Trish, my father never explained. I talked to my father. Dad, did you see the episode last night? Because we would talk, and he would say, "Oh, saw that episode." And I said, "Did you see the episode last night?" And he said, "Yeah." And this was what he said. He said, "It's about time you got some jazz records on the show." So that was it. No moment of like, wow, have I been? I feel bad. I've been riding you for 30 years. Zero awareness, zero comment about it, etc. So there you go. And yes, I'm sure he liked that. I'm sure he liked that episode. And yes, Frank saying, I want you to pass it on too. My father really wanted me to enjoy jazz, which I ultimately did. There's better ways of getting your kid to enjoy it. But all right, Pam, yes. So Pam, of course, yes. Oh, Tony, that is true. So Leo, yeah, that was a very good thing. Okay. So Jenna is your first name, I assume, because very few people have the name Pendleton as a first name. Although I think that was going to be the name of the Beach Boys, the Pendletons. Okay, so did I ever get him a jazz player? And by the way, if you watch the episode, I'll answer that question. If you watch the episode, somebody asked in the past, how did Ray come out with the bra attached to his back? And I asked Ray. Ray has no recollection, zero recollection of how that happened. And so I asked our props woman, Rhonda. She doesn't know. I don't think it was her thing. Her guess is that someone from wardrobe was back there and stuck it on Ray. And in the end of that episode, Deborah gives Marie the gift, and she doesn't like it. It's not really a style I'd ever wear. And I think we talked about it. Phil and I talked about it last time. How someone told me they played that in a psychology class, just talking about how you cannot please certain people, and that was true. So the answer is no. I actually didn't get my father a CD player, and he actually bought me a CD player when I was in college, I think, and I would play some of the CDs. My father had the biggest collection of CDs, so much so that when he died, I took all of his CDs that were in a custom case for CDs it's about 8 feet high, and it was it's like almost like a mechanics thing for CDs. And there are actually so many CDs that they're still sitting in my friend's basement in New York. Nobody predicted at that time that everything was going to go digital. All right. So on Jazz Records, if you watch the bloopers, if you go on YouTube and watch the bloopers, you'll see that Ray keeps laughing. It's worth looking up on YouTube, bloopers from that season. I don't even know. What season is Jazz Records? Help me out, my super fans. Is it season 7 or 8 maybe? So, yes, Jenna. The bra was downstairs, and Peter said, yes, Mount Crapmore is a pile where they put all of their old gifts. Yeah. So my father in real life did have a ton of CDs. So that one, but he also had a crazy amount of vinyl records also. Blooper season 7. Yes, but we don't know how it stuck to his shirt. Good. Season 8. Thank you, Gil. Season 8 for the Jazz Records. So if you watch the bloopers from season 8, you'll see Ray actually loses his voice, because when Ray leans in and goes, "You moved my records," First of all, he keeps laughing because he's really overacting or hitting it hard, as they would say, and he's losing his voice. So and I remember thinking the night of the filming, like, oh, don't lose your voice because we will have to dub it in. From Charlotte. Okay, so here, good. This is a great opportunity when I don't have a guest, which I'm trying to alternate guests and not guests, so I can answer questions right away. Yes, hello from Charlotte. You grew up on the episode. How many takes did Brad need to do that fall? I don't know. So one of the funniest moments in Jazz Records is Brad falling, and there's also there's a thing when I watched it recently that made me laugh so much, so hard when Monica says, "What is it? What is it?" And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to tell you." And Brad does it in the most hysterical, mumbling way that you can't write that. I don't know, Leo. I don't remember how many takes it took. So for those of you that didn't see the episode, Brad falls into eggnog and some broken ornaments on the ground, and then Ray and Brad get into this argument about it. 10th episode. Thank you, Tina. 10th episode of season 8. Yeah. And by the way, I'll put a picture of me and Peter Boyle standing together holding the record because Peter was a huge jazz fan. And he told me that he was going through a very tough period in the 50s, in the late 50s, Peter was. He was searching. He studied to be a monk, and he dropped out of being a monk. And he was really searching. And he said the Frank Sinatra album, Only the Lonely, was an album that helped him through some of these really melancholy times. And I can't remember if he was in Chicago at the time for whatever it was. The picture of Peter just listening to this album over and over again was very poignant. And so Peter really knew jazz and loved jazz. So it was great. I got the album and we took a picture. I'll post that. Now here, I want to talk about this. In the episode, I'm going to post these never before seen photos. I was looking through the proof sheets, and in the proof sheets, I saw a picture of Peter and Ray standing outside the apartment. Outside Ray and Deborah's kitchen with a Christmas tree. Now, for those of you that saw the episode, it starts with Ray going, "What happened to my dictionary?" Right? And the boys were playing with it. And then we do a little callback, as they call it in comedy. At the end, he gets a digital dictionary as a gift from his twins, which they say it's better, which obviously Ray is very disappointed. So I'm looking through the proof sheets, and I see them outside the kitchen door with this tree, with this Christmas tree. And when I watch the episode, I don't see it in the episode. And so I went back to my original script, and sure enough, there's a scene at the beginning, it's called the teaser, where they're trying to get the Christmas tree into the house, and Frank is just yelling, "You're baking the branches, you're all this stuff." So my guess is, because I honestly don't remember, for those of you watching, if you've ever seen that portion, maybe there's a deleted scenes or something with it, but my guess is, and this I want to tie in the thing with all the sports stars. My guess is we ran long. The show has to be delivered to 22 minutes and like 45 seconds to the second. And Phil just said, "I'm cutting the teaser." So that whole tree part, he goes, "We start here." He'll come down from editing, come in the writer's room and go, "Okay, Tom, Jazz Record starts when he goes, 'What happened to my dictionary?'" So when I post those photos, you'll be hopefully as amazed as I am that it was there and we didn't and it didn't air. So related to the sports stars, a lot of you wrote, and I think you felt bad when I said they were cut out in syndication. So we had a lot of sports stars who were guests, like Tommy Lasorda and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Christy Yamaguchi And by the way, somebody corrected me that it wasn't Chris Yamaguchi, that it was Katarina Witt. Katarina Witt was part of the film, of the show. So that's why she wasn't cut out. She wasn't part of the teaser, so she was part of the episode. She couldn't be cut out. They were all cut out for time. So it wasn't that Phil doesn't like Christy Yamaguchi. It was just that that beginning portion didn't serve the story. So in Jazz Records, Phil has nothing against Christmas trees. It's just that he was watching and he goes, okay, either we cut out the Christmas tree or we cut out another part of the episode. And so I lost the Christmas tree, Tom. So that's how that would happen. And that's what happened with the sports stars. So it wasn't Phil has some vendetta against sports stars. It was just for time. Yes, Terry Bradshaw, great. Let's see. Going through questions before we wrap it up. Wow, the time always flies. So good to see everybody here, especially those of you staying up late in the UK. Yes, Tina. One day you'd like to know about taping over the wedding episode. Okay, that's a Aaron Shore story. We will do that. Mia Familia was based on reality from one of the writers. Mia Familia was the old woman, right? So that was, so the woman was from Bisaquino, which is Ray's wife's family's real town in Sicily. So was it based, I don't know per se, to be honest, Mia Familia, because it's a little bit of a, it sometimes happens when you have this long lost relative, etc. So I think we were trying to do a twist on that, but I will find out more about that. But Bisaquino, the town they name, is Ray's wife Anna's real family's hometown in Sicily, which I've been to. Yes, did Peter have some records from John Lennon, his best friend? Yes, he definitely did, but not in the 50s, that's for sure. Yes, Jazz Records, yes. Oh, yes, on the eggs and the eggnog. Yes, Joanne, did you notice that he lost his voice, in Jazz Records? That's awesome. Let me scroll through these. Am I Italian? Yes, I think so. Caltabiano is Italian, and I have relatives in Sicily. Ray is not Sicilian. Ray's father is from Bari, and I can't remember where his mother is from. But my family is, yes, Messina, and Ray's wife's family is from Bisaquino, which is one town south of Corleone, which is over by Palermo, south of Palermo. Yes, okay, that was great. Well, sorry, reading these questions. And when most people watch this in the replay and all the questions disappear. That's why I have to say the question out loud. Yes, you love the fact that Peter Boyle is John Lennon's best man. Yes, I think they met through Peter's wife, Lorraine, who wrote for Rolling Stone. And they became very good friends, and they would go on vacation together. Yes, the deep Robert breasts were hilarious. Great, Tina. Eggnog, yes. Reading through, great. By the way, the fall from Brad is just priceless. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Here's a question that I don't know if any of you noticed it, and I'll ask Wardrobe. I thought it was interesting that Deborah was wearing yellow. Deborah was wearing yellow in the Christmas episode. Patty looks great in every color, but I thought, I think she looks especially good in red. So I'll be curious why they decided to dress her in yellow. And and it wasn't Christmas Day. So on Christmas Day, they were sitting in front of the tree, and I don't remember what Patty was wearing then. Yes, Trish, my father never explained it. He never gave me a satisfactory, he just said, you ruined them. He didn't say, the time you move them or the time you put them in the sun or when you colored on them. There was no specifics. Hello, Sunderland, UK. All right, 2 minutes left, and where did the name Barone come from? That is a very good question. Robert's Date was written by Jeremy Stevens. So Phil, so this is very interesting about network TV. So you're constantly taking notes, and the network is trying to guess what show will work and who will like it, and can we not offend people, etc. And so Phil had to listen to the network notes, which was, don't make it too ethnic. And the irony is Seinfeld is about as ethnic a name as you can say. You know, it's Seinfeld. There's no ambiguity there. And the name just means nothing, Seinfeld. But for the show, Phil thought, okay, let me make it Italian, but we'll have it ends in a vowel, but you don't pronounce the vowel, at least Americans don't. And so that's where the name Barone, and there was a pizza, and still is a pizza place in Los Angeles called Barone's, Barone. Yes, Joanne, Brad Garrett did appear. You can go back. For any of you, by the way, people say, how do I watch it live? I know a lot of you know this, but just scroll back and you can see it all. You can see all of the episodes. How great was Madeline Sweeten last year? Last week, she was great. Yes, but you don't pronounce the vowel. Yeah, I know, it's funny. They slipped one by. Muzio Paw Print. That's an interest. I love these names. All right. I will see you guys next week. By the way, tell your friends who are fans of Raymond to find us. And let me know also, if a lot of you are on Facebook, I will do some Facebook Lives and try and get some of the other writers. And then I think I can share some of those interviews on here. So, all right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good new year. Have a safe new year. And I will talk to you guys next week.